Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and on today's video we are going to be looking at the latest trail offering from 361 Degrees. Guys, this is my review of the 361 Degrees Lynx. Let's get into it. Alright, full disclosure, 361 Degrees was good enough to send me the links for the purpose of review. However, they haven't told me what to say. They don't have any editorial privileges, and all the thoughts and opinions are my own. Now that that's out of the way, you are going to be able to pick up a pair of the 361 Degrees Lynx for $150. Of course, I'll place a link in the show notes below in case you want to pick up a pair for yourself. So let's jump right into it. And I do just want to tell you that the 361 Degrees Lynx does fit true to size. I'm going to talk more about how it fits in just a few minutes, but it does fit true to size. I wear a US men's size 13 in the Lynx, and I wear a US men's size 13 in most other brands. So true to size. The Lynx does have 35mm of stack in the heel, 30 in the forefoot for a 5mm drop. Now, 361 Degrees claims that a US men's size 9 would tip the scale at 10.2 ounces or 289 grams. However, in my size, a US men's size 13, it tips the scale at 12 ounces even or 340 grams. And that makes the Lynx the lightest trail shoe in the 361 Degrees lineup. Now, if you're a fan of 361 Degrees or you've been watching my channel, you remember when I reviewed the Futura, and in my size, the Futura tips the scale at 13.3 ounces or 378 grams. So at least in my size, the Futura weighs 38 grams more than the Lynx. But there is one big difference that separates the Futura from the Lynx, and we'll get into that. Okay. So as we do, let's start at the top and work our way down. I'm going to hold this up so you can see that. The Lynx does have a good amount of padding around the heel collar that is going to translate to extreme comfort when you put your foot in. The Lynx is definitely built for comfort. It is a daily trainer for the trails. And when you're out running on the trails for a couple hours, definitely appreciate it when a shoe is super comfortable. The Lynx does have a solid heel counter, which is going to prevent any heel slip. Got a nice elf ear heel with a pull tab on the back just to help you get it on. But because of all this padding and this heel counter and this big elf ear tail into the shoe, I didn't actually have to use the heel pull to get the shoe on, but it's still nice to have. For the upper, 361 Degrees is using a breathable, recycled performance mesh upper. I mean, it's an engineered mesh. It does use 25% recycled material, so that's always a good thing. And I found the breathability to be totally acceptable. We can see we've got some good laser cut air holes right here in the front, and this is a dual layer upper. I mean, of course it's a dual layer upper. It's really only on race shoes when we're going to have a micro thin single layer upper, but we want this shoe to be durable, and the Lynx is certainly durable. So this top layer of the upper is actually fairly coarse. It's fairly rough to touch, and that's just going to make it a lot more rigid and durable if you're running off-road and, I don't know, dust and rocks are brushing against it. I would think it's going to stand up to a little more than just a standard smooth engineered mesh upper. Now the second layer, the layer that is closest to your foot, when I stick my hand in here and I just feel it, it's just much softer. So it's going to be a lot more comfortable on your foot when your foot is in the shoe. As far as overlays, underlays, we have the branding both on the lateral and the medial side. We have some reinforcements coming around the toe bumper, but it's not really a toe guard. This is just a traditional amount of underlay just to keep that upper off your foot. It's not going to be giving you any rock protection. I think it's always good advice to not go around kicking rocks, but you don't have any extra rock protection in the Lynx, so yeah, really avoid it. We do have some reinforcements coming along the eyelet chain, especially here at the top. Oh, and the Lynx does have this extra eyelet hole in case you wanted to do the lace lock, but I didn't have to. And then right here, I'm going to put something on the screen so you can see. But 361 Degrees is using a kind of a shock cord system to loop the laces in and out of. Well, so you would think, because you can see the shock cord kind of weaving its way around the shoe, but this is actually just for aesthetic purposes, because the laces actually weave into the upper just as a traditional lace would. So you are getting a normal lace closure, which I think especially on a trail shoe is a good thing because you are going to get a good midfoot lockdown. Like when you cinch those laces, it's going to have plenty of material to bind against to hold the shoe tight on your foot. If we were just using a shock cord, or for lack of a better word, fly wire, then you may not get as good a lockdown. But it looks pretty good, especially in this kind of safety orange color that they've got it, so I'm here for it. The laces on the Lynx are fairly thick, fairly substantial. I mean, they're probably only slightly thicker than a traditional lace, but again, I think it lends to the feel of durability and high quality materials being used for a trail shoe. And of course, when I tied down my laces, I didn't have any issues. The laces didn't come untied, and that's really all I want. Now let's come down to the midsole, because the midsole is what makes the Lynx what it is. I mean, it's a solid trail running shoe. Now I've got to say, I was a fan of the Futura, but the Futura was using 361 Degrees Engage foam, and you know, for me, I just found that a little too firm. And look, I know this is all personal preference. You might like a firmer midsole foam. And in that case, maybe the Futura is going to be the trail shoe for you, even though it's a bit heavier. But earlier this year, 361 Degrees did come out with a new foam. They're calling it Primo. And Primo is a very soft, now not too soft, but it's a very soft, supercritical EVA PIBA blend. And you might remember that earlier in the year, I reviewed the 361 Degrees new Helios. And I just thought this was a winner of a road shoe. And basically it came down to the new Primo foam and its soft and responsive ride. Now 361 Degrees has added that Primo foam to their trail shoe, the Lynx, and it's made it a lot lighter, and we get that soft and responsive ride. Now look, I do have to tell you that I have had a comment on one of my videos, I think it could have been the Eleos, maybe it was the unboxing for the Lynx, but somebody said that they thought the Eleos was too soft of a ride for them. Of course, again, this is all personal preference, but my answer to that person was that the Lynx is not as soft as the Eleos, and that's for one reason, and that's because we got a full coverage of Vibram light base, and this full coverage of outsole rubber is going to just temper the softness of the Primo midsole foam. So it's still going to be soft underfoot, but you're going to have this firm, harder rubber, which is excellent for grip, and it's going to take away a little bit of the softness. I found it was a really good balance. Now, one of the reasons that the Lynx is so much lighter than the Futura is the midsole foam. The Primo is a supercritical foam. It's obviously going to be lighter than the Engage foam, but also we're using the Vibram light base. Basically, the Vibram light base is exactly as its name suggests. It gives a light base to the shoe. In fact, it actually reduces the weight of the outsole by 30%, and it still maintains that grip and durability. Now, another thing that I want to compare for you between the Lynx and the Futura is the outsole. Now, on the Futura, you can see there is a big difference. And the Futura is using the Vibram Mega Grip, and there's just a lot more lugs, right? In fact, if I hold this up like this, you can see it looks like the Futura has almost double the lugs of the Lynx. So while the Lynx has very spacious lugs, this is a good thing because this shoe is designed for light to moderate trails. And obviously with the spacing of these lugs on the Lynx, you're not going to get any mud stuck in there. There's going to be no buildup. But also these lugs are all pretty uniform in shape. And while I didn't have any issues with grip or traction while I was running on my fairly easy trails in the Lynx, when I do look at the Futura, look, I can see that we've got lugs that are in such a shape that they are going to be well suited for maybe a little more technical trails. Of course, on the Futura, we've got the lugs that are shaped like this up on the forefoot. So when you're going uphill and you're landing on your forefoot, these lugs are going to grab onto whatever material you're running on and maybe stop you from slipping back. And then on the heel, we have the lugs facing this way. So when you're on your heels and you're running downhill, these lugs are going to be grabbing onto the material, stopping you from slipping. So ultimately, I think it comes down to what type of trails you usually run on. If you're running on like super, maybe wet, muddy, technical trails, I may go with a Futura. But for everything else, I see no reason to get anything other than the Lynx, because it is so much lighter. Even though this Vibram lug pattern seems pretty sparse when we compare it to the Futura, it's still good enough. And there wasn't one time in my testing period when I was out running on trails in this shoe that I thought, oh, I need a little more grip. This is definitely grippy enough, especially for my use case scenario. Okay, so just one more thing about the fit. You can see this toe box. I found this toe box to be fairly spacious for my feet, and that's a good thing. I think when we're out on the trails, we definitely want our feet to be able to breathe. I mean, I don't actually know what type of runner I'm talking to, because I'm talking about it like we're going to be out running an ultra marathon. And if you are that runner, then you are who I'm talking to right now, because I think this is a nice wide toe box. It's going to give your feet room to breathe, maybe room to expand. And perhaps if you have slightly wider feet, the 361 Degrees Lynx will work well for you. As far as the midfoot, I wouldn't say it's made particularly for wide-footed runners, but it seemed to have ample space for me, even though I have self-described narrow feet. I think there is room for a wider foot than mine. When it comes down to it, I think the main reason that you are going to be choosing the 361 Degrees Lynx is this Primo foam. I'm just a real fan of it. I think I said it in my video about the Eleos, but I think the Primo foam is going to be the thing to move 361 Degrees forward, because it's a lot of fun to run in. They already make good shoes, and now they've got a solid foam. Oh, and I do just want to tell you that in one of my runs, I did take this shoe out and I did run a tempo run in it. And I got to say, it performed really well. There wasn't one time when I thought that the shoe was holding me back, like I could have worn a faster shoe. And that, again, comes down to the Primo foam that 361 Degrees is using in the Lynx. It's just light and responsive, and it feels really good underfoot. When you add a sturdy upper and a full coverage of Vibram light base, you got a very good trail shoe. So guys, now I want to hear from you. Did you run in the Futura? Have you run in the 361 Degrees Eleos? And are you thinking of picking up a pair of the 361 Degrees Lynx? Drop a comment and let me know. And with that, it's Matt B. This has been my review of the 361 Degrees Lynx. Be kind, be happy, run well. See you in a couple of days.